FPL Gameweek20 team selection on the FPL Joe YouTube channel. So only 44 points in a dire Gameweek 19, a tiny red arrow down from 118k to 123k, not a single goal in the team this week. Raya blanked with the 94th minute clean sheet wipeout, and O'Reilly blanked as well, having been subbed at the 58th minute. Two positives were Gordon and Saka both provided an assist. Gordon was subbed at the 80th minute, which is better than what we were expecting, and Saka assisted the Gabriel goal. Timber also provided a clean sheet and an assist. It was slightly overshadowed by Gabriel's 15-point haul on his return, and I was counting on Raya's clean sheet to make up the difference here. Nevertheless, as the highest scoring player in the team, I can't complain, and as a result, he will get the MVP award for my team this week. On the bench, Collins picked up a 9-pointer, securing all 3 bonus points against Tottenham, and unfortunately, it was just blanks for everyone else. The City attack was stifled by Sunderland and went 0-0. It was the third blank in a row for Foden. There are questions now being asked about whether his purple patch is over, but it's worth considering that with 1.5 XGI in the last 3 games, he has been somewhat unlucky not to come away with a return. Haaland should also have scored from a Foden assist against Sunderland, and this would have been massive for my team and would have definitely changed the narrative on both of them. Similarly, Liverpool were held to a 0-0 draw by Leeds. Virgil provided a clean sheet but was not able to secure Defcons, who only got 6 points, and I was very lucky going against Ekitike, who with an 81% effective ownership at my rank only scored 2 points. That would have been a massive red arrow had he returned anything. If there was any remaining doubt, we can't be classing Leeds or Sunderland as easy opposition anymore, particularly Sunderland, who looked fantastic in defence against Man City. 2 areas where I am seeing some difficulty in my team is with Timber and Lacroix, who are both essentially the worst versions in their respective teams of Gabriel and Gehi. However, it will be a luxury move to switch either of these two, so what I'll instead be doing is moving Gabriel in alongside Timber in a couple of weeks. So moving swiftly on to Game Week 20, all things considered, I'm actually in a decent place for Game Week 20. There are no major flags to worry about and minimal benching concerns. The only injury risk at the moment is Hall, and the only 2 minutes risks are Gordon and O'Reilly. Gordon and Hall actually have their worst fixture of the run, so I'm not overly concerned about the minutes that either of them do get. I will be subbing Collins in for Lacroix and also reordering the bench. As far as transfers, Gabriel is the big target for many managers, having scored a 15-pointer on his very first game back from injury. I had really hoped that he'd start more quietly, as price rises are going to be more significant now. He's also back on the radar for casual managers as well, as he's now the top scoring defender in FPL yet again. To compound things, here's an interesting graphic from OptaAnalyst showing Europe's worst teams for conceding non-penalty set-piece goals. The top 3, Liverpool, Bournemouth and Forest, are actually Arsenal's next 3 opponents, and Gabriel is the main target from set pieces. In my case, I actually would prefer to have Saka for the next 2, and I need to keep a premium midfield spot for when I want to move Palmer in further down the line. He's on many set pieces, and he could slightly negate a Gabriel attacking return if he provides the assist. Saka actually did this in Game Week 19, which is what led to his 6-pointer. So one option if I do want to bring in Gabriel this week is to go Raya to Pickford and O'Reilly to Gabriel for a -4 hit. However, this -4 would negate one hypothetical attacking return for Gabriel, and there's no real clean sheet benefit either, as with Gabriel back to 90 minutes shortly, there won't be any early subs to allow for the clean sheet loss that Raya got last week without Gabriel receiving that same loss. There was also a key moment versus Villa, where Gabriel celebrated blocking a shot, despite the fact that Arsenal were already away and ahead, likely to win this game by this point. This is the defensive desire that Arsenal have lacked, leading to leaking one-off goals in many games, and I expect their clean sheet conversion rate to improve significantly, closer to being in line with what their expected numbers are. So with Gabriel's return, Raya ultimately becomes a better asset, and as a result, I'm keen to actually move to an Arsenal back 3 in the future. This would mean needing to rebuy Raya, who I bought at 5.5 million, and I'd lose 0.3 million in the process of doing that. So reluctantly, the most likely option for me is to roll this week. I absolutely would like to have Gabriel, but I prefer to build transfers back up and delay the move, so I can do it without a hit and also target other players at the same time. In my case, I'm eyeing up Saka to Palmer, O'Reilly to Gabriel, and Cunha to Enzo, likely in Game Week 22. This is still the ideal point for these moves, as we're expecting to see increased uncertainty around O'Reilly's minutes without Nori coming back, and also Chelsea's fixture swing kicking into full swing around this point. In Game Week 23, Hall can also make way for Mukiele, who plays West Ham and also Burnley back-to-back. And then in Game Week 24, this leaves funds for going Gordon to Bruno, plus a bit of breathing room for all expected price changes until then. At some point, I'll also need to move Thiago out. One option for doing this is to move to Bowen and lining up as a 4-4-2. Bowen has fantastic fixtures until Game Week 25, but in my case, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to him by then. He's also not on pens, and West Ham are still a poor attacking side overall, creating minimal chances for him. What's more likely is that I'll move to a 4-5-1 instead, upgrading Potts to a playing midfielder and selling Thiago to a non-playing forward. As far as Everton defensive coverage, I would really like to move to Tarkowski, but this is seen as a luxury move at the moment. As mentioned previously, I also prefer Raya to Pickford now that many Arsenal defenders are returning from injury. So ultimately, having used 2 transfers on Newcastle assets in Game Week 19, this prevents me from making any luxury moves this week. They're still yet to prove themselves as well, and with 3 remaining fixtures, there's still plenty of time for them to come good. As for captaincy, the main choice for me is between Cunha and Haaland. It was Cielo getting most of the chances in Game Week 19, and Cunha is visibly lacking Bruno's setup, so despite back-to-back blanks from Haaland, I'm sticking with him for captaincy this week. I'm hoping that he can come good against a potentially less organised Chelsea team following Enzo Maresca's departure as head coach. Cunha therefore will be getting the vice-captaincy for Game Week 19. I've got fingers crossed that with the increasing pressure on Amorim and Leeds sensing an equal opportunity to get a result here, the game will be a bit more open and will provide Cunha with some better opportunities for returns. And that wraps up my Game Week 20 team selection. Drop a comment with any questions you need answering for your team in Game Week 20, and I'll be sure to respond with my thoughts before the deadline. And with that, if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would go a huge way in supporting this new channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back to prepare for Game Week 21 in a few days, with the final 2-day turnaround of the winter period. Best of luck, and fingers crossed for another green arrow.